Welcome to the Wonder Dog podcast. My name is Nina May. I am launching this episode as Britain is in the middle of a massive heat wave, and my Instagram feed is full of warnings from vets about heat strokes for dogs, and especially for flat-faced dogs. It's almost like not having a nose isn't an obvious sign that there might be some health problems down the road, and especially at the moment, these dogs are really suffering. Well, Battersea Dogs and Cats Home a few weeks ago launched a brilliant public awareness campaign that highlights problematic features in pets and encourages pet owners to make more informed choices. But will the people listen? Or are some dog lovers just too hooked on a squashy face? I spoke to Caroline Jenkins. She is the head of campaigns at Battersea and responsible for the Cost of Cute campaign. Well, two things before we start the episode. Caroline is a cat person, but we let this one go because she is just fantastic and she is a great ally to all pets. Secondly, I mentioned some studies by the Royal Veterinary College carried out by Dr. Rowena Packer, who is a senior lecturer in companion animal behaviour and welfare science, and Dan O'Neill, the professor of companion animal epidemiology. In January, the duo published a study about whether the public would accept crossbreeds, and spoiler alert, it's difficult. But there was another study in the back of my mind when I spoke to Caroline, which is from way back in 2019. The study was also carried out by Rowena and Dan. Dan said in the study, after almost a decade of working on brachy dogs, I have come to realize that the issue is as much a human problem as it is a dog problem. I actually interviewed Rowena at the time about the study, and she told me owners of baby-like dogs love the level of dependency on them. Being unhealthy doesn't seem to put them off. In fact, 90% said they would buy them again, but only 10% would recommend them to friends or family. Breaking this bond is difficult. And with that in mind, let's hear from Caroline. I began by asking her to tell us a bit more about what Battersea does.
So Battersea's actually been around since 1860. So we're quite well known for being a rescue, rehabilitation and rehoming organisation. Our work goes far beyond that now. So we do a lot of work in preventing some of the issues affecting dog and cat health and welfare. We also support people so that dogs and cats can live in homes where they can be loved and cared for. And then we support and share our knowledge, expertise and resources with the rest of the sector.
And you are one of the leading charities in the country, but you're still one organisation. And your new campaign, The Cost of Cute, I think it's absolutely wonderful. But it cuts across the sector. It's not just about Battersea. So tell me what was behind this.
The rise in demand and popularity for dogs and cats with extreme characteristics is a real issue, and to be honest, it's one of the biggest problems affecting dog and cat health and welfare. There's been quite a lot of work done in the past by other organisations, but that's particularly focused on dogs with flat faces, but actually the issue is much, much bigger than that. So it spans dogs, cats, even other species actually. And a lot of it is driven by social media. So very much aesthetic and look-driven popularity of dogs and cats. And people don't know that the look that they love is actually causing real problems for those animals. So it's a really important issue. It's affecting the whole sector. So it is a public information campaign, but it's also about changing behaviour. And that's what we want to do ultimately.
What I loved about your campaign is that it's really positive. You're not talking down at people. You're not telling anybody that they're an idiot for buying a flat-faced dog. It's a very sweet campaign. And I imagine that something like that might cut through much more than some of the anger that we're sometimes seeing on social media as well. Talk me through the campaign development and what research was behind it.
Sure. So, yeah, we did a lot of research that underpinned it, actually. And what we found was that there's really quite a stark difference between the perceptions and preferences of people who are under 45 and people who are over 45.
Oh, that's interesting.
And people who are under 45 are actually seeing dogs and cats more virtually than they are in real life, which is quite a startling thing. So, and social media, not just social media, but also the media more broadly, even advertising, popular culture, is kind of creating a new normal, and it's shaping what people think is normal for how animals should look, how they should behave and how they should be treated. And that's leading to kind of this new generation of pet ownership. So there's a huge rise in kind of personal autonomy and a really broad spectrum of what people deem to be acceptable. But a really low awareness of the impact that some of these looks have. So what we want to do is really make sure that we're not judging anyone. We're certainly not criticising anyone for the animals that they own. What we want to do is make their next decision a more informed one, because there's no point blaming or judging anyone for the animals that we own. We know that people really, really love and care for their animals. No one wants to see their animal suffer, let alone their beloved pet. But actually, they may not understand kind of some of the challenges that come with these animals, whether that's, additional vet costs and medical treatment that they require, the emotional cost of seeing their animal suffer. And, unfortunately, sometimes that leads to the decision of people having to relinquish their animal when they can no longer care for them. So that's what we want to stop, is we want to reduce preventable relinquishment and make sure that people can live really good, happy lives with their pets that are, happy and healthy.
And why now?
Frenchies have been one of the most popular and most advertised dogs for the last 10 years. They've stopped being that. In fact, they were pipped to the post last year, but again, with another animal with an extreme characteristic, so the miniature dachshund, which also has its own challenges. So increasingly, as I mentioned, on social media, these animals are everywhere. You can't walk anywhere without seeing a dog or a cat with a really extreme characteristic, to the point that they've become really normal. And if it's normalised, it's kind of acceptable. And so then it just, the actual impact gets lost. We do see a lot of these animals come into our care because once people, they do face much higher vets bills. And if people aren't prepared for that, there is also the emotional kind of toll of seeing that suffering. So they do come into our care once those people can't meet their needs anymore. So what we want people to do really is, if they are absolutely set on taking on those animals, we want them to do so kind of with their eyes open, really, and know what it entails.
I remember years ago when I spoke to the RVC about when they were already raising the alarm bells, and they were talking about the average vet fees. I think it was about 20,000 for a Frenchie over their lifetime on average, and the lifetime was pretty short, 4.5 years or something.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
can be
It's tragic.
huge. And in fact, even there are trends on TikTok. TikTok's not a big area for me, but
For me.
but there are trends where people are doing kind of how much my dachshund cost, where month by month they go through, and it's like, well, a couple of £100 this month, nothing the next month, nothing the next month, £7,000 for back surgery. So, and that has kind of almost become a thing in itself, and that can't be normal, suffering. I really want people to prioritise health and welfare. There are so many animals out there, so many breeds, so many mixed breeds, so many rescues that are really happy and healthy. This breeding for really extreme looks isn't inevitable. People are breeding for more extreme looks and often driven to look cute. And we're not blaming anyone, for anything, but also we're not calling people out for wanting cute animals. Everybody does, obviously. But they don't have to have these extreme looks that compromise their life.
Of course, one of the annual sort of points of where everybody comes together, and sure enough, a lot of these dogs are being shown on TV and then straight away being criticised, is crafts. And the Royal Kennel Club is obviously a massive driver behind this. Mm-hmm. What are your conversations like with the Royal Kennel Club and with crafts? Do you have conversations with them?
Yeah, we are in touch with them, and I think it's fair to say that they've been on a bit of a journey. They have changed some of their rules around certain breeds. They've got different tiers of breeds that are shown. They prevent some animals that have problems caused by these extreme characteristics from being shown. There is more to be done, obviously. So more recently, there's been the introduction through the RVC of the innate health assessment. Kennel Club are developing their own version, so a nose-to-tail assessment. And then off the back of that, I believe that they're reviewing their breed standards. So there is movement in the right direction.
Yeah.
Everybody wants animals not to suffer and to be happier and healthier. there are lots of pieces to that puzzle. It's a really, really complex and nuanced area.
Some countries, I mean, for example, Finland, and I think also in the Netherlands, they've gone to outright ban certain breeds. That seems quite drastic, but is that something when you see that in the newspapers where you think, I wonder if we should do that?
It's not something that we would be calling for. If we can shift kind of trends so that the population becomes healthier, happier, with fewer problematic characteristics, everybody wins. People have much longer, happier lives with their animals.
How has the campaign so far been perceived? Have you had any feedback from it?
Well, funnily enough, actually, we did some creative testing before we launched the campaign, and because we wanted to be aware of how this would impact people who own these animals already, because we don't want to judge or blame anyone. We don't want to fuel any kind of negativity towards people. It's absolutely not what we want to do. So we were really interested to see how they would react. To be honest, it was really well received by people who own these animals because they live it. So there was a lady who participated in one of the groups who owned 2 pugs, and she was saying how actually people come up to her in the park and they're like, oh, that's so cute, like that little piggy snorting. She's like, it's not cute. Like, they're really struggling. Like, she really, really loves those animals, but they want to play. They can play for 5 minutes, you know, before they get really puffed out.
Yeah.
As soon as the temperature rises, they're really struggling. So she wanted more people to be aware. She wouldn't make that choice again.
Yeah.
We had other people who they'd really wanted a pug, but actually they were more aware of the issues. And so they'd chosen a mini dachshund. And they knew that there were some problems with the mini dachshund, but they wanted one, so they got one. They've been to hell and back because their dog had a slip disc, became paralysed, had to have massive surgery. And, you know, it's been heartbreaking for them. They really want people to understand, like, the challenges and make better decisions. They wouldn't make that choice again. Yeah. So that's been really important. I mean, the campaign in terms of reception has been exactly as we'd hoped. You know, we know that it takes people on a journey. They see this massively cute picture of an animal. They then read the copy, slightly sort of feel guilty about their initial reaction, and then it makes them think. And that's what we want to do. We want to kind of prompt reconsideration around what people see as cute and what they then would want to take on. It has ruffled a few feathers, and to be honest, we wouldn't be doing our job properly if it hadn't. There are people who are very passionate about certain breeds and very kind of determined that, you know, change will not be made. We just want animals to be happier and healthier.
Do you want to say a bit more on that? Whose feathers were they? Breeders? Just enthusiasts?
I mean, on social media, it's a murky world.
Yeah.
You're never quite sure who people are. But yes, I mean, very much in the kind of breeder enthusiast space.
Yeah. To actually mention one study to you, and I know that you know the 2 people who authored this study, Dr. Rena Packer of the RVC and Professor Dan O'Neill. Both of them have worked for years and years with extreme breeding standards and also kind of looking into the pathology of the dog owners. And they released a study in January that looked into the potential uptake of crossbred dogs, which of course will be one way of kind of bringing a bit more health into certain very extremely bred dog breeds. But what they found was when it comes to the owners of purebred flat-faced dogs, a lot of them basically liked the so-called purity of the breed, and they were very insistent that it might have detrimental effects on the appearance. I know you weren't participating in this study, but I know that you've read it. So what are your thoughts on something like that in the light of the Cost of Cute campaign?
I mean, it's interesting because actually, if you look at the history of dogs, I mean, all dogs kind of look like wolves for a very long time. Then certain breeds started to emerge for kind of certain jobs to be done. So like working animals, be bred to have certain characteristics to perform certain functions. That then changed into kind of aesthetic preference. And actually, the rate of change in the history of dogs is really rapid, and it's not inevitable. It is driven by preference. So actually, if you look at like an old style pug to a new style pug, I mean, the face shape is dramatically different, and now it's really problematic, whereas before, you know, they actually had a nose. So actually in the campaign, the shape that the copy forms is the original kind of shape of a pug's face. people are really passionate about their breeds. Crossing and outcrossing is an option in order to very quickly introduce sort of healthier characteristics back into an animal. Obviously, we're not going to convince everybody, and I'm absolutely not the expert. But it is something that some people worry that it might introduce different characteristics, because the other thing is that some of these breeds with extreme characteristics, like pugs, are really known for their characters. You know, they're really quirky, funny little things.
Yeah.
People really love that. But that comes with other problems. And that, you know, that I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. Also, there are some challenges that if you cross certain breeds, you might have two that are more predisposed to eat a lot. So they might have weight gain, for example. But, you know, there are options. There are lots of options. Breeding is a spectrum. So there are healthier animals. There are with less extreme characteristics. There are ones that are really, really extreme. It's a very, very broad range. So actually, if you're really careful about from breeding from like the healthy animals, the healthier animals, with the less extreme characteristics, you know, you get better animals.
What are you seeing at Battersea? Do people come in specifically and say, I want to adopt a pug, or do they come in quite open-minded? What's your experience?
Well, I mean, from research that we've done on other projects, people are really, really fixed on the breed that they want. And people's kind of ownership journey can be very, very quick, or it can take forever. So, you know, people can dream of the animal and the life that they're going to have with it. So they get quite fixed on a breed, or they can be swayed by something and want one. And to be honest, with the kind of Amazonification of animals, you can get one pretty quickly. So you can make a very rapid choice. But people do tend to kind of think breed first, not necessarily characteristic first, but breed first. Battersea and other rehoming and rescue organisations obviously match animals that we have to owners so that the owner can meet their needs. So it's not a shop, you know. It's a really careful matching process. No, it really isn't. So people may come in with an idea of what they want, but it will be kind of understanding, you know, what resources they have, what the environment is like, what needs they can meet, and then matching animals to that in terms of size, temperament. We see a lot of kind of big dogs. There's a lot of misconception around greyhounds, for example. We see quite a few of those in our care. People think that they need a huge amount of exercise. Actually, they don't. They need to burn off a lot of steam and then they're happy to sleep. We do have a lot of animals with extreme characteristics come into our care.
And now that you have the campaign going, I guess there is a flip side to that people now know about these health problems. So is there a danger, or people now say, I don't want to have any of these dogs or animals in my house because I've just learned how prone they are to serious illness?
I mean, I would be really surprised, given how popular they are. And also, if people are fixed on wanting these animals, we would really encourage them to come to a rescue, because those animals have been thoroughly health checked. If they've needed like BOAS surgery to open up their airways, they will have had that. And also then the person looking to take on that animal can do so, you know, with a full set of information. You know, make them very aware of what the future might look like for that animal, what additional medical needs they might have, what their potential length of life might be, so they can make an informed choice. I don't think we've struggled to rehome, you know, and I really don't think that we would.
Yeah.
Given how popular they are.
It's a long-term conversation, isn't it?
It really is.
And I remember that you and other charities also reached out sometimes to brands. You've mentioned it earlier, how often these dogs still are seen in advertising. I think that Vitality still has a Dachshund. I'm not sure if is it still a real one, or is it finally an AI one?
Well, that's another challenge, because there have been a couple of ads recently featuring incredibly flat-faced cats.
Yes.
Whether they're AI generated or not, they're still creating an image that people want, and that is becoming kind of normalised and acceptable. And if it's part of popular culture, people see it, they want it. Animals are being bred in order to meet that. So, there is work to be done on helping people make more informed choices about the animals that they feature. So actually, if we can give them a base level of knowledge, and also reward them for doing the right thing. So, for example, I don't know, you may have seen, but years ago, for example, Moonpig, most of their cards seem to feature a pug.
Yes.
They moved away from doing that because they became aware of the implications. We're really keen to kind of reward people where they've done the right thing.
We spoke already a little bit about money in terms of vet fees. I know Battersea is a huge organisation. You have in-house vets, you have a lot of behaviouralists. But can you put some figures on how much this health crisis is costing you and perhaps even the sector? If an unwell Frenchie comes through your door, that sounds expensive.
I mean, it is expensive. I'm not sure I could put a price tag on it, but, and as you rightly say, you know, we're very, very lucky in that we are well equipped. We have a huge amount of experience and expertise and facilities in order to do this. We do a lot of BOAS surgery particularly, but of course it's not just the cost of the surgery, for example. It's the length of stay that animal will have with us. It's the medication. Often these animals, they might have a flat face, but they might also have a screw tail. They might also have hip or elbow dysplasia. They might have eyelids that roll in or out. So there might be lots of different things. Quite often, flat-faced animals also need quite a few teeth extracted because there isn't enough space in their jaw for the teeth that they have. We will do whatever that animal will need so that it can go on and live have a good quality of life. But that does mean that they can be in our care for longer, as well as, you know, the treatments that they need. We are well placed, but it's not just us that's seeing this. You know, this is all across the country. So yes, it would impact on other organisations as well.
You also work with smaller charities across the country. Is there a picture that you can paint for us about what it's looking like for smaller charities and maybe even for charities that specialise in some of these breeds?
It's tricky. You know, I think there is no reducing need for our services, unfortunately. Lots of organisations do have waiting lists. People are struggling. Not only with vets bills, particularly related to these animals, but generally cost of living is really important. Also, I mean, a driver of animals coming into our care is often people's housing circumstances changing.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether that's through job loss, breakdown of relationships, or just having to move and moving to somewhere where, you know, they can't keep their animal anymore. And that can be absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, if I was in that position, it would just be the most devastating thing. I'm sure that's the case for other people. So we've done quite a lot of work around trying to change that as well. So looking at all these different things so that, you know, the causes for relinquishment are reduced. I mean, it is a tricky picture across the sector. But, I mean, I was at a conference last week and I can say the passion and determination across the sector is huge. Everyone is really working together, determined to do the best for dogs and cats.
And of course, there's just also been the change in the law about pet-friendly tenancies, which I know Battersea was behind quite a lot. That was not so much a public-facing campaign, which I guess concerned more government, didn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, because it's more government-facing, it was primarily led by our brilliant policy and public affairs team. We've been around a long time. We have a huge amount of experience and expertise. We've seen a lot. We're very evidence-based. We do a lot of research. We see a lot of cases. So we can talk really in a really informed and balanced way about the problems that we see. And so therefore we are really fortunate in that we're often a trusted advisor for government. So yes, we were part of kind of helping to change that and encouraging those changes that we've seen within the Renters' Rights Act. It doesn't go far enough. It is very much focused on new pet acquisition. It's not for people who've already got pets and therefore looking for a new place to live. So there is more to do. But it's a huge step in the right direction. But we're also working with people who rent their homes, but also with landlords to make it the norm that pets are welcome in properties. Because we also did a piece of work with the University of Huddersfield, actually, into the economic benefits of renting to people who own their pets. And we found that people tend to look after the property better, live there for longer. Any damage to property is actually even, I think, lower than it would be normally, because people really want to stay. They really want to look after those homes.
Coming back to the cost of cute, I'm not sure how the government could get involved in this, but I know we talk a lot about better regulations of breeding in general. Do you think government has any role to play in this, or is this down to the Kennel Club, or even just down to supply and demand ultimately?
I think everyone has a role to play. We are expecting a consultation around breeding regulation for dogs. There is a role to play, obviously, within that. Breeding is a really broad thing. It's very hard to define a breeder. Lots of people breed like their pet wants, as opposed to kind of the more commercial end. So it's a tricky one to regulate. But there is room for that. The Kennel Club has a role to play. And public awareness and supply and demand, people making better choices is key to it.
Caroline, I know this is a dog podcast, but I feel we need to talk about your pet. Tell me about your pet.
So I have the most amazing cat called...
I knew this is what we really should have talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I love dogs. I get cats. You'll find that often within Battersea. People either are a bit more team cat, a bit more team dog, but generally people love them both. Oh, yeah, there's healthy competition, shall we say. But...
is your cat a Battersea cat?
He's not, actually. I had him just before I joined Battersea.
Okay.
He was actually found on the street at the beginning of lockdown when all the vets were closed as a tiny little kitten, which is why he's he's a survivor, a bit of a fighter. But yeah, he's brilliant. Most beautiful cat I've ever seen. Obviously, I would say that.
Obviously.
Probably because he was a lockdown kitten, sees himself very much as a person.
When you look at cats as well with these extreme features, you said earlier that you see them a lot in advertising now, and then you look at your own cat. What goes through your mind?
I mean, I'm a cat lover. For me, every cat is cute and beautiful. What we are seeing, though, is a really dramatic rise in some of the issues that have traditionally faced dogs now facing cats. So extreme flat faces, hairlessness, even being bred with dwarfism as munchkin cats.
That's awful.
But also the rise in popularity of Scottish folds, which are the ones that have got like little folded ears, big eyes, kind of round face. People don't understand that actually the condition that folds the ears is a musculoskeletal problem that affects the cartilage throughout the body, so can lead to early onset arthritis. So actually they're really known for kind of this docile, gentle temperament that could actually be hiding underlying pain, because cats are very good at hiding that. So yes, they might not be as active or racing around, but that might be masking something else. We are seeing, and Cats Protection actually do a brilliant report every year called Cats and Their Stats. And it's showing a really dramatic rise in the demand for pedigree cats, often because people are seeing them on social media. And so that's kind of informing what they think the options are.
Yeah.
So some of these really extreme breeds actually in cats are kind of relatively rare. There's an awful lot of domestic short hairs and kind of mixed breeds that are all brilliant. But actually the kind of concentration towards pedigree breeds, often with these extreme characteristics, is really concerning. And it's happening really quickly. So that's why our campaign spans dogs and cats and spans a multitude of features, because it's not just one breed.
You're talking about all this really calmly and gently, so I think you never would be the person who puts an angry comment under something on Instagram because they once again bought a pet with a terrible nose or tail or something. But do you think social media has to do a bit more?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, judging people doesn't help. Getting angry doesn't help. I mean, obviously we are, as Battersea, we are incredibly passionate about animal welfare. So the calm exterior belies, lots going on. If you get angry with people or you judge them or they even feel like they're being judged, the barriers go up.
Yeah.
That's not going to help anybody. Actually, what we need to do is make people more aware to start. We need to help people. We want it to kind of become a national conversation, not just a thing on social media. Because one thing that we do see is that people think, well, mine will be okay. Yes, there are problems within this breed or with this characteristic, but mine would be okay.
Yeah.
If I get it from a good breeder, if I am a good breeder, and there's a lot of misinformation about what that is. And if I'm a good owner, then I can essentially love them better. That's not always the case.
We had one lady in the park who for years loved to have King Charles Spaniels, and she always had one each colour. And whenever one, let's say the black one passed away, she got another black one. She spent an arm and a leg on all these dogs. And whenever we pointed out to her that she didn't have to buy another one of those, she could have just rescued one, she completely shut down the conversation. But there is this sort of almost addiction, it feels like, to being needed.
I think, there can be some elements of that. And I think we have seen through our research that sometimes people may be aware of some of the problems and additional care needs don't necessarily put someone off. In fact, again, through our research, there was someone who had always had Frenchies and then was quite interested in getting a hairless Frenchie because even though, unfortunately, hairless and fluffy Frenchies are kind of two of the more extreme newer versions.
I've seen a fluffy one. I've never seen it.
Yeah, so and obviously, they're not intended to be that way. So, but she was quite keen on kind of needing to moisturise it, keep it in a jumper, keep it warm. And obviously the fluffy versions, they're an animal that struggles with temperature control anyway. So put a coat on that kind of animal, a coat as in a longer hair coat, they're going to struggle even more. So yes, I think that is part of the problem, in that sometimes people do want animals with additional care needs. Maybe they have love to give. We would like them to channel that in a slightly different way. But also, I think what we need to do is kind of elevate this so that it's more commonly known. We are targeting people on social media. We know that's where a lot of the challenge is. So we need to meet people in their feeds and meet them where they are. But we also need to kind of create an element of elevation and legitimacy, which is why we're using out-of-home media and billboards, so that it kind of sparks more of a sort of a social conversation. And so people, you can't ignore it, you can't not see it, that other people have seen it, so it actually starts to kind of shift things more broadly. Because, as you say, criticising someone as gently as you might do it, the barriers go up.
Yeah.
Actually, enabling people to come to it themselves is a far more powerful way to do it. And the campaign has been developed with a lot of behavioural science principles underpinning it. So it's very carefully done. It's been quite a long time in the crafting. So hopefully it will kind of drive change. But it is a long-term thing. It's going to take a long time to do this. We're in this for the long haul. And I mean, with behaviour change, anyone who's ever been on a diet knows that, it's not change and that's it. You have to keep changing it. I mean, wouldn't that be the dream? But, so we have to keep plugging away. People are buying and choosing animals and falling in love with breeds all the time. So we kind of need to shift kind of the environment around that, so that when people come to that, they're coming to it in a different way.
So prep me for next time that I meet someone who constantly buys the same breed, even though that breed is not healthy. What should I tell them?
Well, I think...
What are your 3 arguments that I can take to the dog park with me?
I mean, really, it's about understanding the needs of those animals first and foremost, and understanding that some of those challenges aren't inevitable. So asking people to prioritise health and welfare first and foremost. There are lots of other breeds, there are lots of other mixed breeds, there are lots of animals waiting in rescue. So first of all, recognise your role as a consumer and exercise your power, and don't fuel this cycle of animals being bred into suffering. So that will enable, much happier, healthier lives for dogs and their owners. Also being careful what people share on social media, because it's very easy to like or share something that seems very cute, but actually that just contributes to like the normalisation and kind of glamorisation of some of these breeds as well. We'd always encourage people to think rescue first. Make sure that, we've got a wealth of information on our website, both for people who are looking for animals, but also to support those who already own them. So, make an informed choice.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Caroline. Thank you.
Thanks.
I find it so admirable that Caroline just keeps ploughing away at the misconceptions and the Instagram and TikTok trends. She is never patronizing and she's always kind. I think she is an example for all of us. To find out more about the campaign, please visit battersea.org.uk/costofcute and spread the word on your socials and also with your friends who are thinking of buying a dog or cat that doesn't have a nose or a tail or has weird ears. I think you got the picture in this episode. Next week, we will be talking greyhound racing. To make sure you never miss a new podcast, please subscribe to Wonderdog's Substack, which is wonderdog.substack.com. Also, all my other posts live there now. And as a paying member of our Substack community, you can also join our members chat to discuss these issues further. Thank you so much for listening, and cuddle your dogs or cats from me.